The second thing I want to talk about regarding episode 1 is what's wrong with episode 1.
The decision was that we're gonna fight for the camera. Suddenly we hear like, whoa, all this scream. My wife starts screaming.
Everybody just starts yelling. I'm not expecting any of these other people to be jumping in. I look up and it's just a horde of people in front
You
of me.
don't have much time to make a decision. This, and I just ran at them and started screaming.
So I start running up to the front of the bus and I'm like throwing punches.
Me and Angela are like, what is happening? We're like looking and we see guys fighting and we're like, we gotta get in there too. We have to protect our friends.
One of the dudes who hasn't found an opponent yet trying to squish through and then he gets through and I knee him in the face. I felt bad about it. He's playing a part. He's not a real bad guy, but they're coming at us with malicious intent, some real heavy shots being thrown. And so I hit him with a knee that was probably way harder than I probably should have, and then another one, and maybe another one.
Happy day. Nobody else sees me. I don't know who I'm climbing over, but it's our people. And I'm like, bah, bah. I'm not hitting anybody hard. And then I get through the crowd and I look up, but there's just a white helmet. And this white helmet's hand goes back, and then with like a crazy velocity, and I was like, oh no. And then again, poof, poof, and I got hit 3 times at that point. Those were very hard. I went from like being like happy and being like, haha, this is so much fun, to like, oh gosh, I wanted to keep my head safe at that point.
Hola, welcome. I am Fat Guy Ninja, and today we are reviewing the Ultimate Self-Defense Championships. Self-defense is something that's near and dear to my heart. I came up doing martial arts since I was 5 in a school that predominantly tried to focus on self-defense, on the application and the pressure testing of techniques. So imagine my surprise when this comes falling into my lap, this amazing series, the Ultimate Self-Defense Championships. This series is brought to us by Martial Arts Journey, and because Rokas does such a good job introducing it, I'm gonna let him do the honors.
I flew in 6 martial arts YouTubers from across the whole globe to compete against each other in 7 different self-defense challenges in a state-of-the-art self-defense facility to see who is the ultimate self-defense champion. So,
Welcome to the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship.
In this first episode, we are treated with a round-robin sparring session, but on a bus.
We do a round robin system where you do 1 round with everyone. Okay, we're going to do it in a different environment. This is your opportunity to spar with one another.
Oh boy, we're sparring in that.
Oh my God.
And then the bus showed up. I'm like, okay, I can just throw all kicks.
And I thought, but there's no way they're going to convince some professional bus driver to drive the bus around while we're fighting.
It's also going to be moving.
No, it's not.
And if they do, there's still no way they're going to convince the bus driver to like sling us around the bus.
So they're going to hit the brakes, they're going to swerve, stop on slopes, inclines.
And sure enough, that's what they did.
There are 3 things that I want to talk about in this episode, and the first is what can we learn? Anytime you try at something and fail, it is a learning opportunity. You take what you've done wrong and you fix it. Anytime you get the opportunity to watch somebody else try something and fail, you get to gain that experience without having to do it yourself.
there's a benefit to losing. You get to learn from your mistakes.
The first thing that we can learn from this episode is that our world is not flat.
You mean the Earth isn't flat?
Most of the environments that we will find ourselves in on a day-to-day basis, such as a bus, such as a subway, such as a car, come with their own unique challenges and, equally, their own unique opportunities. If we only train in a comfortable studio or a padded octagon, we'll never learn the nuances of fighting in different environments. About half a decade ago, one of the participants, Icy Mike from Hard to Hurt, participated in a fight put on by Street Beefs. In that fight, he learned the hard way that the primary ingredient in sandpaper is sand, and that dry dirt has many of the same properties.
So then I ended up on my back, and I immediately started shrimping, and it was fine. I was going to get away, but it tore my back to shreds. It was pretty bad. It hurt really bad. It was awful. Predictably, he tried to throw on a headlock, and I always preach how the headlock doesn't work. But in this case, something interesting happened. In order to escape the headlock, it's actually really easy. But as soon as my head started scraping across the ground, I started feeling it grab my head just like it had grabbed my back. And I did not want to pull my head out anymore.
Icy Mike is now a better martial artist because of this fight. He now knows the challenges with fighting on dirt and, by extension, concrete. One of the most important things that we can take away from this episode is that training in different environments makes us better. The second thing we can learn from this episode is that on a bus, and by extension in confined spaces, being on bottom is not ideal. Normally, being on bottom, wrapping guard, is not an issue. You have all kinds of avenues to subdue your opponent. But on a bus, in a confined area, there's no room to move, and movement is necessary to get into new positions.
It's so narrow, there's no room to move my arms, there's no room to pass guard.
Many of the fight participants found themselves on their backs, leaving them in unfavorable positions. In this example, Rokus is fighting Ramsey Dewey, and Rokus decides to put himself on his back and utilize his legs to keep his opponent away. Due to Rokus's elevation on the seat and the fact that he's in a confined space, it left his ankles at the mercy of a larger opponent.
My plan is as soon as he stands up, I'm just going to start kicking him. That works out great. He can't come in. And then suddenly I feel he grabs me in a foothold. This is not what I want.
Things went from bad to worse as Ramsey Dewey pulls Rokus to the ground, leaving Rokus to fight defense for the rest of the round. We see this problem again when Jeff Chan fights Matt Clinton. Jeff throws Matt onto the seats and gets into what I'll call a tabletop side mount. From there, he rains down elbows and punches that Matt is virtually helpless to stop. Luckily, Matt finds the back door and gets back to standing, but while he was in that bottom position, he was virtually helpless. When thinking about these fights, we can take away that we need to tailor our fighting style to the environment that we are in, and that on a bus or in confined spaces, being on bottom is not a good place to be. There are many other little gems that we can pull from these fights. I encourage you to go watch the full episode. It's fighting on a bus. You're not going to go wrong. The second thing I want to talk about regarding episode 1 is what's wrong with episode 1. This is supposed to be the ultimate self-defense championships, but this exercise has nothing to do with self-defense. Self-defense is about protecting yourself from damage. But the criteria that they were using, that was stated at the beginning for how they were going to score points, was not about self-defense.
Each participant will be fighting each other in 1 minute or less rounds, and their performance will be later scored by judges based on how much damage they inflicted and how well they used the environment to their advantage. The winner will receive 1 point, and if it's a draw, no points will be attained.
How much damage you cause is not a good measurement of how well you defended yourself. It is possible for you to defend yourself without ever hurting your opponent. And it is also possible for you to deal out massive damage to your opponent and still die, which, wink wink, nudge nudge, is going to happen in other episodes.
He's dead! Indeed he is!
Is this a dead man, Doctor? Very dead, Mr. Spock.
Ooh.
Blood, 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 and death.
All right, you know what you're milking it.
This challenge was set up like many sport fighting competitions, where you get points for how much damage you deal out to your opponent, and you win by dealing out more damage than your opponent. The fight participants approached this challenge like sport fighters, thinking about dealing out damage and not protecting themselves. And since the challenge was catering to that, we didn't see very much problems in this one as we did in other challenges, but we still see moments where the fight participants are not protecting themselves.
That's a lot of nuts!
This competition could be so much better if they got a little bit more consistent on how they were grading the fight participants and got a little bit better at making this more about self-defense and less about just sport fighting. That brings us to the third thing that I want to talk about in this episode, and that is, how do we fix this episode? First off, and most importantly, how are we going to grade this challenge? In my opinion, there's only one thing that matters: where we end up after an encounter. There's one of three places we could end up. One is home in our nice, comfortable bed. 2 is in the hospital. And 3 is in the morgue. There's a few things that we need to take into consideration when creating a rating system, and one of those is that size matters. For example, I'm a pretty big guy.
Big boy!
I'm 5'11". If I were to hit somebody who was 4'10", I could probably drop them with one punch. On the flip side, if someone who was 4'10" tried to drop me, it would take significantly more punches.
Wow, you're getting quite a workout there. Oh, that feels good.
Also, all the competitors are completely padded.
Just get out of my way.
And no one is firing off at their full strength. So we need to create a standard that everyone can compete by. And we need to keep in mind what we're trying to test, which is how well do you defend yourself? And for it to work, we need every challenge to have an attacker and a defender. Keeping all that in mind, I created a 3-tier rating system that reflects where you would end up after an encounter. Tier 1 is when you make it home. If you make it home, you get 2 points. To make it home, you need to have been hit in the body 10 times or less, and in the head 5 times or less. Keep in mind, these are 1-minute rounds. If you're taking 10 shots to the body, you're not protecting yourself. But even with 10 shots to the body in this rating system, you're still making it home, and you still get both points. 2 points for making it home. If you make it into Tier 2, you're going into the hospital. To get into Tier 2, you have to have suffered 11 to 20 hits to the body and 6 to 10 shots to the head. If you get put into the hospital, you're still alive, so you still get 1 point. However, if you get put into the morgue, you get 0 points. And to get put in the morgue, you have to have suffered 21 hits to the body or more and 11 hits to the head or more. Using this criteria, let's look at 2 similar fights on this bus. Icy Mike versus Jeff Chan and Ramsey Dewey versus Jeff Chan. All right, first up is Icy Mike versus Jeff Chan. We're going to be looking specifically at Icy Mike today. I love that Sensei Seth is just kicking it back here. All right, let's see him bang. So, start of the fight, we get hands on and we get this massive knee. I think that one actually hurt. Boom, right there. From there, we get Jeff Chan pulling offline and then delivering another knee. And that knee just sneaks in right underneath it. So we're counting that as 2 body shots to Icy Mike. From there, Jeff Chan gets in his guard and just starts raining down punches. We get the first punch here. Boom! Headshot. and it just impacts. Boom. Next punch, if you notice, his hand is here, checking this hand. I think Jeff realizes that, doesn't punch with that hand, but sets up for the next punch. Boom! Big punch right there. He does get his foot up though, which allows him to kick Jeff Chan off. Boom, comes back in for another punch. This punch, does he block it? No. So there's another headshot. We don't really get anything until... Boom! Oh, that has all of his weight. Boom. So that's another body shot to Icy Mike. Moving on to the next one. Don't really see anything definitive. Boom. There's a nice little quick body shot, which we will count. So he lands another punch. I'm going to call that one to the body because I could see it kind of here and his head is over here. So I'm going to call that one to the body. Then as we pull back, Jeff Chan takes that opportunity to take two really good shots. 1, 2, before Icy Mike really can get his hands up, and continues with a jab to the throat. But unfortunately, knee to the body right there, which is our last shot to the body for Icy Mike. And then from there, we get grappling for a little bit till the end of the round. That leaves Icy Mike with 5 headshots and 6 body shots. Now, based on the footage that we were shown, this means that Icy Mike would make it home and he would get 2 points. However, I think in the full footage, we may have seen another headshot in there, in which case he would have been going to the hospital and he would be getting 1 point. All right, next up we have Ramsey Dewey versus Jeff Chan. So let's have a look at it. This is a pretty short fight, so we're gonna go in slow motion. But as we come off the bell here, Ramsey Dewey has his hands super high and his chest wide open. And I think he's doing this on purpose. I think he's trying to bait a front kick, which Jeff Chan looks like he takes it. Boom, right there. There is not enough impact on that front kick. Look how extended this is. He's barely tapping him. Ramsey's pushing back, grabbing the leg. I can't count this because if his knee was still bent and it had give, I would say that was a good shot. But this did not have any. He's like tippy-toeing him, so can't count that. But Ramsey grabs his leg and launches himself forward. Unfortunately, Ramsey gets thrown onto the seats. And as we saw before, when Jeff Chan is on top, dude, he is a beast. However, this is a little bit different than Icy Mike. Ramsey's hand is on Jeff Chan's bicep. So when Jeff Chan goes to punch, he can't straighten out that elbow and really give it the power that he needs because of that hand being there, deflecting that punch. So I can't count that as a headshot. This one, however, Ramsey's hand is on the back of his head. Jeff Chan is able to get his punch over the top, and it does have the ability to extend the elbow, and it does do some damage there, so I will count that as 1 headshot. With this elbow, because his arm's over here, all he has to do is land down. Now, if Ramsey had his hand on the bicep, he might have been able to deflect this a little bit, but his hand's on the back of his head, so this elbow comes in full force. Boom! Nice hard hit there. So that's another headshot to Ramsey. Ramsey's got his hand here. Jeff is going to pull back out of range, come back over the top, and deliver another massive elbow. Boom! Right there on the head. Nice shot. Boom. Another headshot. And we get another punch with nothing deflecting it. So that is another headshot to Ramsey Dewey. He pulls all this off to the side and then gets into a better position. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to count that. Let me just see it at full speed. Hold on. No, I'm not going to count it. This hand is right here, and it kind of gives it this soft landing at the end. Almost like a springy motion. As it comes in, it comes right back. So I'm not going to count it. It may have hit hard, but it's definitely not going to hit as hard as it could have. So I'm going to count that as blocked. And that is the end of the match that we have. So we will call it there. That leaves Ramsey Dewey with 4 headshots and 0 body shots. Now in the competition, the way they scored this, Ramsey didn't get any points for this fight, but he did a decent job of defending himself. He kept his body closed and he mitigated the damage to his head. And even though in the full footage there may have been some extra shots that we were not able to see, it's clear that Ramsey would not have been walking away with 0 points. And from the footage we did see, it's clear he is definitely gonna make it home. There's one last thing we need to add to our grading system, and that is, how well do the participants protect their face? Our faces are a treasure trove of the sensitive and vulnerable parts of our body. Attacking the face is a natural and instinctual tactic that even children employ. Scratching of the face, poking at the eyes, and pulling ears are real problems that need to be addressed when dealing with self-defense. To simulate this, if an attacker has 2 hands on the participants' heads for more than 5 seconds, they are immediately going to the hospital and losing 1 point. Also, if an attacker has 1 hand on a participant's face for more than 10 seconds, they will also lose 1 point. Protecting your face is often overlooked by many martial arts systems, but it's very important because the last thing we want is someone going primal on our face. Now that we have a point system that measures how well we defend ourselves, how can we fix the challenge to better reflect a self-defense exercise? The different criteria given in this episode were:
each day they will be facing new challenges without knowing what they will be.
I like to throw in curveballs. I think true self-defense, you're not prepared for it.
So we want some level of spontaneity and uncertainty.
We do a round-robin system where you do 1 round with everyone.
We also want every participant to have a chance to fight against every other participant.
Each participant will be fighting each other in 1 minute or less rounds.
And we want each round to last only 1 minute or till tap out. With all that in mind, we can set up this challenge as follows. Each participant will get a hat, or a bag, or a bowl, or whatever you would prefer to pull names out of. In each participant's hat, there'll be the name of every other participant. 6 participants in total, 6 hats, 5 names in each. All of the participants will be seated a few seats away from each other and staggered across the aisle from one another.
Sorry, do you mind going back? This is first class. It's nothing personal. It's just that we're better than you.
The only thing that the participants need to be told is that they will be attacked at random and that they should defend themselves. And that if they are not attacked, they should remain where they are. Additionally, the participants should be told to continue looking forward until an attack has occurred.
All right. Work this out.
One participant will be called to the back of the bus at random to pick a name out of their hat. They will then be told to go and attack that person.
The first name is Simon Skinner.
After the 1 minute round is over, a rest period will be given. Then, another participant who did not just fight will be called to pick a name.
And the next name is Tim Messenger.
Since there are 6 participants that have 5 matches each, that's 30 matches. Each match is 1 minute, so that total fight time should be half an hour. Including rest and water breaks, this challenge should not take more than an hour, at most an hour and a half. When scoring this challenge, we're only going to be looking at the person who was attacked. The attacker is going to be ignored. This gives the participants the ability to score 10 points in total for this challenge. And that is how we turn a sport fighting competition into a self-defense challenge. All in all, this is a great series. It's very entertaining. It's well worth a season 2. However, as we saw in this episode, not all of the challenges were geared for self-defense. Many of them were simply sport fighting competitions. But I'm curious to know what you think. Was this a good way to fix the bus challenge? Did it need to be fixed at all? Let me know in the comments below. And for now, I am out! Peace! Bye.